So much time was wasted arguing about whether fibromyalgia was real or not that scientific understanding of this illness is at least 20 years behind where it should be. My medical career has been dedicated to correcting this and fast-forwarding fibromyalgia into the realm of modern medicine. To do that will take some novel and creative approaches, and that's what I think I've created here with the FibroStories database. This database provides a revolutionary way that people with fibromyalgia can both learn from each other's experiences about what works and what doesn't work, and to also find comfort in the shared lived experience of hearing from other people dealing with the same thing you are. In this initial video project, I'm asking for anyone who has fibromyalgia and wants to share their stories to record their answers to 22 written questions. These recordings will then be archived, indexed, and available for anyone to read or view here at the library, but with some important privacy considerations. First, let me tell you a little bit more about the inspiration behind this project. For years, literally years, I obsessed over finding a way that people with fibromyalgia could share their fibromyalgia experiences into a confidential, searchable database that would really enable us to learn from each other's experiences. For example, if somebody with fibromyalgia was recently diagnosed and they want to know, should I try going gluten-free? What have other people found when they went gluten-free? They could enter that question into a searchable database and hear from 10 other different people about their experience. This adds much more data into their own personal decision-making process. Or what if you want to know if anyone has found benefits from low-dose naltrexone or psilocybin or that weird supplement you saw on Instagram? First, I want to clarify, I don't mean giving or asking for medical advice. And I will always emphasize the important caveat that we all respond differently to interventions. So what works for one person might not work for another. Our body does not read the textbook is one of my favorite medical quips for a reason. This is why treating a chronic illness like fibromyalgia requires so much ongoing experimentation, though, because there is no textbook. And as each of us with fibromyalgia personally try new treatments and approaches, we're kind of creating the wheel over and over again. We're acting as our own individual research experiment. We're human guinea pigs, and certainly we learn lots of useful information from our own experience, but that data pretty much stays with us. But what if we combine data from lots of individual guinea pigs and make that information accessible to others? Then it starts to become much more useful, both scientifically and I think on a human level. I think this is how the database experiment that I'm developing here could help fast-track fibromyalgia medical care and research. Here's another potential demonstration of the value of this type of database. What if a researcher is writing a review article about low-dose naltrexone? They could actually, using this database, they could include real people's experiences and actually publish the answers in a medical journal article, anonymously, of course. But this is much faster and cheaper than going through the time-consuming and expensive process of creating a survey, sending it out to hundreds of patients, gathering and organizing the responses, etc. I feel like this could really expedite the process of getting information out to other researchers, healthcare providers, and other people dealing with fibromyalgia themselves. To be honest, I have been wanting to do something like this for a long time, but there did not seem to be a way to do it without spending millions of dollars. Until earlier this year, I found a company called Their Story that has developed a way to harness AI to create a searchable database from oral histories. As I have been building this project with them, I have been super impressed by how responsibly they use AI. I think they've harnessed it for good here. They also take privacy really seriously. So here's how this project on Their Story works. You record yourself on video answering a series of written questions, or down the road, it might be more like a one-on-one video interview, like a Zoom call. And that video interview is then transcribed by AI, and the transcript is checked for accuracy and then corrected by a human. Next, both AI and a human generate keywords for indexing. Keyword indexing is the process of assigning descriptive words or keywords to digital content that makes it searchable and discoverable. When done manually by a human, it's quite time-consuming and imperfect. But here's where this platform gets really exciting. Their Story uses AI that does semantic searching or context-based searching. For example, in a keyword-only search, if you ask, what is the best way to explain fibromyalgia to a child? And the specific word child was never added as a keyword during the manual indexing process, then that keyword search is going to miss all the interviews where people talk about telling their daughter about fibromyalgia. Whereas a context-based search would find those interviews because it gathers from the context that a daughter is another way to refer to a child. I want to reassure you, these interviews are designed to be casual and conversational, not formal. You don't have to prepare, don't have to read an essay. Just pretend like you're sitting down and chatting with me. Of course, it can be helpful to review the questions beforehand and jot down a few notes if you'd like. That can counteract fibro fog nicely. The 22 questions range from things about diagnosis, symptoms, kind of treatments you've had experience with, and then also your own lived experience, your own emotional experience of living with this condition. Each response can be as short or as long as you want. You can do it in several sessions if you want, and you can also skip any questions you don't want to answer. At the end, you can choose to re-record the entire video interview if not satisfied. But keep in mind, we're looking for reality, not perfection here. And you can see my very imperfect example as the first entry in the database, because I always experiment on myself first. Sharing your life experience this way is a really generous donation of your time and experience. I deeply appreciate this and take it really seriously. If you are freaked out by the use of AI in this project, and it's totally understandable if you have concerns, or if you worry about privacy, there are some very important protections in place. First, all interviews are publicly identified only by a fake name. This is your chance to be creative. Think of it like the pseudonym you might use if you were publishing a risque novel. Your real name and all contact information will never be published and is only accessible by authorized staff of the Fibromyalgia Research Library. Your information will never be used or sold for marketing purposes. And any researchers who access the database prior to their publication of that information must obtain consent from me and the Fibromyalgia Research Library. You also get to determine to what extent your information is published in the database. All the interviews are initially recorded on video, but they're only published in the way that you pre-approve when you submit your interview. This could be written only. That's the most private. Written plus a narrator, someone else reading your story on video. Or it could be written plus audio, kind of like a podcast, or the whole shebang, written, audio, and video, which is certainly the most useful from an emotional perspective. I think humans really resonate with each other when we can see each other's faces. But any submission will hugely help. In order to make the most kind of educational use of all of this information, on occasion, clips of related content might be combined. For example, a montage of a few clips of people sharing their experience with low-dose naltrexone might be published alongside an article about the science of low-dose naltrexone here on the Fibromyalgia Research Library. This, of course, would only be at the level that you decided, that you determined when you submitted your interview. For example, if you said only written transcript can be shared, then it's possible a written quote might be used in a newsletter or on the website. If it's only an audio or video or a narrator reading, those boundaries will also be respected. Down the road, if anything changes and I might want to use your information outside of the Fibromyalgia Research Library, I will contact you for permission first. This is actually why I gather your name and contact information so I can get in touch with you to request that type of permission to use that information. And it's totally okay if the answer is no. It's also okay if you really want help, but just don't feel like this video interview project is right for you. Whether it's privacy, AI, or other concerns, totally understand that this interview project is just not going to work out for some people. There are actually some other ways you can help. You can share this interview project with other people who have fibromyalgia who might be interested in submitting their interview. You can sign up for my email newsletter, the Fibromyalgia Research News, to stay updated about different future opportunities that you might want to take part in. You can also support the project financially by purchasing a copy of my book, the FibroManual, which is available in paperback, Kindle, and now audiobook form. My book really focuses, about 80% is on things we can do for ourselves with fibromyalgia, and about 20% is more what you can talk to your healthcare provider about. And there's actually even at the end, there's an index or appendix that's just that you can actually just print out and give to your healthcare provider. So speaking of guinea pigs, I did go first on this initial interview project. And if you want to see that, you can find my video. You can also find more information about this project at fibroresearch.org/FibroStories. Thank you so much in advance for any help you give with this project.